Hello everyone and welcome back to Python for Economic course. So in previous session we learned like how Python stores economic information using variable and data type. We created a variable for country, year, GDP, inflation, unemployment, population and other economic indicators. So in this session we will learn like how to perform calculations using those variables. So the main topic for today's discussion is Python operator and economic calculation. See, operators are symbols and keyword that allow Python to add a value, subtract value, multiply, divide, compare economic indicators, combine multiple conditions, and calculate the economic measure such as GDP, growth, trade, balance, unemployment, labor force. Then we can talk about real wage growth and compound growth. So by end of this session, we will also create a complete economic indicator calculator, and also with this, let's start the scenario. So I would request every one of you to open Colab notebook provided with this video and types of example along with me. Okay. See, all values that we are using this lesson are completely illustrative unless any official source is specifically mentioned. These values should not be treated as a current or official economic statistics. Okay. If we talk about the learning outcome, so by end of this session, you should be able to explain operator, operand, arithmetic operator, assignment operator, understand the operator precedence, use the comparison operator, combine conditional logic. You should be able to calculate the trade balance, budget balance, GDP per capita, and many other stuff. Okay, so the focus is not only on writing the formula, but we will also try to interpret each result economically and discuss the important limitations also. Okay, so let's start with first a scenario, that is operator. See, an operator is a symbol or a keyword that instructs Python to perform a specific task. For example, addition plus symbol, subtraction minus symbol, the pointer multiplication, the forward slash is used for division, and the greater than symbol is used to compare the values, and keyword and is used to combine the two different conditions. Okay, so the values on which operator acts are known as operand. Okay, so let's consider a scenario, export minus import. Okay, so here export and import are what? These are nothing but the operands. Okay, so the minus sign, if you see over here, is a operator, and what is happening? Python takes the value stored in two variable and perform the subtraction. So we use operator every time we create an economic formula in Python. Okay, with this, let's move to the next point, the arithmetic operator. See, arithmetic operator perform numerical calculations. So the major arithmetic operators are plus for addition, minus for subtraction, asterisk or pointer for a multiplication, forward slash for division, double asterisk for exponentiation, okay, percentage symbol for remainder, and double forward slash for the floor division purpose. Let us understand each operator through a small economic example. Let's look at first one, that is total household income. See, our first operator is addition. Suppose, let's say, a household receives a wage income and a government transfer. Okay, so a simplified total income can be calculated as what? Total income equals to the wage income plus the government transfer. Okay, so let us create the variable now. The first variable is what? It's a wage underscore income equals to 50,000. Our second variable is, let's suppose, government underscore transfer equals to 8,000. So the first variable is going to store your wage income, and second variable is going to store what? Your government transfer. Now we calculate the total household income by calling a variable total underscore income equals to wage income plus the government transfer. So here, if you see, the plus symbol is there. Okay, so using this plus symbol, what we do is we add two values that are available. Okay, and finally what we are doing is we are trying to print the data using print function f double quotes total household income colon, then in curly bracket we have mentioned total household income as a variable, and we are closing the double quote and the bracket. So now let's execute the cell, let's run the cell, and you will see that it mentions that total household income is 58,000. See, economically this is one only a simplified calculation. Okay, so complete household income measure might also include rental income, interest income, business income, remittance, pension, or any other transfer. So the purpose here is to understand like how the addition operator works. Okay, let's move to the second aspect, that is subtraction. See, we will now use subtraction. See, the trade balance is commonly calculated as trade balance equals export minus import. Okay, so for this what we are going to do is we are going to create variable, that is export equals to 450, then the import equals to 390. Assume that both values are measured in same unit, such as billions of same currency, we can say. Okay, now calculate the trade balance. So what we are going to do, we are going to take a third variable equals to export minus import. Okay, so the minus sign, what happens is subtracts the import from export, and let's display the results, the values in front of us. So we are calling the print function using the f string, we are calling the exports, in curly bracket we are calling the variable name, and we are printing that specific exports. Similarly for import and similarly for trade balance. Now let's run the cell. Now you will see the output shows export of 450, import of 390, and trade balance of 60. See, because the result is positive, exports exceed the import. Okay, so this represents a trade surplus in the simplified example. Now the basic interpretation is, see, positive trade balance means trade surplus, and negative trade balance means what? Trade deficit, and zero means what? The export and import are completely equal. So we must ensure that the both values same currency, same scale, same time period, comparable definition. So for example, subtracting export measured in millions from imports measured in billions would produce like a meaningless result, right? Okay, so let's go with the next aspect, that is the government balance budget. Okay, see, subtraction can also be used to calculate and simplify the government budget. Okay, so the formula is what? Budget balance equals to government revenue minus the government expenditure. So let us enter the values now for this variable. So we are taking a first variable, we are assigning 1200, we are taking a second variable, that is government expenditure, and we are assigning 1380. Now let's calculate the balance. So for it, what we are going to do, we are going to take budget balance equals to government revenue minus the government expenditure variable. Okay, and over here we are going to display the result inside what? Using the print function f of, like we are calling the f string, then we are printing the banner, and inside that banner we are calling a variable inside the curly bracket. Okay, now if you see, let me just execute the cell, you will see the result is negative. Okay, negative 180. So the negative value means the government expenditure exceeds the government revenue in the simplified example. Okay, so positive value will indicate a surplus, whereas a negative value will indicate a deficit. And the actual analysis of government budget is more complex than it may distinguish between like a revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, tax revenue, non-tax revenue, borrowing, grant, and interest payment. So for this lesson, we are focusing only on what? Subtraction operator. Then there is something known as a multiplication for total expenditure. See, the multiplication operator in Python is a asterisk. Okay, so suppose we know the price of 1 unit and number of units purchased. So what can be the formula? It will be the total expenditure equals to price multiplied by the quantity. So what will happen? We'll enter the values now. So if you see, we are going to take price per unit equals to 250, quantity that is purchased as 40, and we are going to perform the calculation. So total expenditures equals to price per unit the asterisk quantity purchased. So the asterisk performs a multiplication and displays the result using what? Using the print function. Okay, I hope you have now understood what is the meaning of print function and all. So let me execute the cell. You will see the total expenditure is 10,000. So this is the basic price times the quantitative relationship that is used in the frequently in economics. Okay, so it appears in calculation involving consumer expenditure, firm revenue, production cost, tax collection, and market value. With this, let's move to the next point, that is division per capita. Say the forward slash performs division. So we have already seen the GDP per capita formula in previous session, if you are able to recall. So the formula is GDP per capita equals to total GDP divided by population. So let us create an illustrative values for it. So we are taking total GDP, okay, and we have a huge value with it. Then we have a second variable and we have a again a huge value with it. The underscore makes the large number easy to read, okay, and please keep in mind they do not change the numerical value at all. Now let's divide the GDP by population. So GDP per capita equals to GD total underscore GDP divided by population. So this displays the result in 2 decimal point. So for this, what we have done is we are going to display the variable, okay, and if you see it mentioned as a dot to f, means what, up to 2 floating point value it is going to execute the statement. So Python calculates the total output per person, and 2f format displays the 2-digit value after the decimal point. See, GDP per capita is commonly used to compare the average level of economic output across the countries or region. However, it must be interpreted very carefully that GDP per capita does not directly show how income is getting distributed, the level of poverty, regional inequality, access to healthcare and education, environment quality, unpaid household work, or overall quality of life. So Python performs this calculation correctly, but economic interpretation remains the responsibility of the analyst. Okay, then let's move to the next point, that is exponential. See, this double asterisks perform the exponentiation task. Exponentiation means raising one value to the power. Okay, so for example, let's say we have a base value is equals to 2, then there is a second variable which says exponent equals to 3, and now we write result equals to the base value asterisk asterisk exponent. Ultimately we are going to display the result, print the result. So the output is going to be 8 because 2 raised to the power of 3 equals to 8. So exponentiation becomes a particularly useful when we calculate the compound growth, okay, and we will use it later in this particular session also. The next aspect that we are going to deal is modulus operator. See, the modulus operator uses percentage. So what happens is it returns the remainder after division. Okay, suppose we have 103 observation and we want to divide them into groups of 10. So the first variable observation is equal to 103, second observation group size equals to 10. Okay, let's calculate the remainder. So in this, remaining underscore observation variable equals to what? Observation variable percentage group size variable. So we are going to display it using the print function. So using f, what we are going to do, the remaining observation equals to, inside that curly bracket you are going to call the variable that we have declared over here. Okay, and let me just execute the cell for you, and you will see the answer is what? Answer is 3. So this means 10 complete groups can be created within 3 observation remaining. Okay, so the modulus operator over here is not used frequently in introductory economic formulas, but it is useful in data processing and programming task also. Okay, the next operator is floor division. See, floor division actually returns the complete whole number part of division. It uses 2 forward slashes. Okay, let's discuss the example. Observation variable equals to 103, group size variable equals to 10. So let's calculate the number of complete groups. So complete groups variable equals to what? Observation variable double forward slash the group size variable, and ultimately we are going to display the result, that is the using the print function. Okay, so let me just execute the cell. The output is 10. So normal division would have written what? 10.3 if we were able to recall this, but we are using the floor division which returns only the complete whole number group. Okay, so together we can say the forward slash tells us the complete group, whereas the earlier percentage symbol tells us like how many observations are still remaining. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm stopping here. Let's meet in the next session.